going on, guys? Max Settings here, and welcome back to another review. In today's review, we are going to be taking a look at the Avantone Planar Red. Now, this is a very interesting headphone, and I just want to basically explain how I came about this review. So one night I was randomly browsing headphone retailers, as I do, and I think this was at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was on Bloom Audio for whatever reason, looking at something else. And I saw this was on his store. And I looked at this and I was like, what is this? I've never seen anything like this before. It is a big, giant, rectangular red headphone with a very interesting construction. So I messaged him and I was like, hey, can I review this? And he said, yeah, sure. So here we are. So once again, thanks to Bloom Audio for providing this headphone for review. I basically just wanted to review it because it looked incredibly weird to me and I wanted to give it a shot. So thanks again to him for letting me borrow this for review. But anyway, let's go ahead and get specs out of the way here of the Avantone Planar Red. So the Planar Red is coming in at $499. It is using a 32 ohm planar magnetic driver with a sensitivity of 104 dB a milliwatt. It has a frequency response of 30 to 30,000 hertz, and it weighs 480 grams. Now, the Planar Red also has another one that's just black, and I believe it's the same headphone. They just have black and red options. So it's really just called the Avantone Planar, but I'm just going to call it the Planar Red for the rest of this review. Now, let's go ahead and I guess talk about the build. So the build of this headphone, it feels solid, but it also feels kind of janky. I was trying to put my finger on what this felt like to me. Like, it reminds me of almost like a Tinker toy or something, like an old school, I don't know, maybe like a metal kid's toy, like an old pail or something. I couldn't put my finger on what it feels like, but yeah, it's basically an all metal construction, more or less, like metal cups, metal yokes, metal headband structure. The side of the cup here is plastic, but that's about the only plastic used. You get a kind of like an AKG style suspension headband with the elastic, a big wide leather strap that says Avantone, and then you get these like kind of crunchy velour rectangular pads with the R and L indicators in them, and they Velcro on, which I guess is a cool strategy for pad attachment, although I think that is somewhat contributing to why they only reach 30 hertz and they do roll off, because I think that's hurting the seal a little bit. Now on the bottom you do have dual entry 3.5 millimeter, but of note, these are one of those ones that are wired where you only need one side and you can plug it in either way. But for whatever reason, they do also come with a dual entry cable, which is one of the dual entries where it doesn't have a definite L and R. You can plug it in on either side. And I'm not sure why they include that cable when you can just do single entry, but they do, and it was the one I used, so just something to note there. But yeah, the build of it feels interesting, to say the least. It feels, like I said, solid, but like makes this weird like kind of clicking sound, but oddly kind of janky. I don't know why. It just feels very odd to me. And now, like I said, included accessories, you get this dual entry 3.5 millimeter, kind of a rough jacket on it. Just feels kind of like a new Fantasia cable, if you've ever used one of those. That's basically what this feels like. You also have the single entry one, which I haven't touched, but because there really was no need to, but you also have that included. And then this is a first right here, a headphone carrying tote bag. This is just a full-size tote bag that they give you to carry your headphones and I guess whatever else. I've never seen a headphone come with a tote bag for carrying, but that is what the Planar Red comes with here to carry it around. So that is quite interesting. Now, as for comfort, the Planar Red is fairly comfortable to me, but I could see it being problematic for some. So it's on the heavier side. 485 is about what like a Focal Utopia weighs. I think it's about what the LCD GX weighed, but it's a little bit lighter than like an LCD2 or something like that. The headband strap is very good, actually. It's really wide and distributes weight very, very well. The clamp is not too hard on them. The only area where I could see people having comfort issues is maybe find the velour a little bit itchy, because this is like kind of that cheaper, a little bit crunchier velour, not like a really, really soft, nice velour. And then maybe if your ear hits the driver, because the pads aren't super deep. But that's about the only real comfort issues I could see anybody having. I find them fairly comfortable personally. So your mileage may vary, but all in all, I don't think too many people will have comfort issues with them. Okay, so now into the sound of the Planar Red. Now I have to say I'm a little bit sad that my mini DSP ears is still out of commission because it broke, because I actually wanted to get squiggles of this because I've not seen anybody measure this thing at all on any rig, but once again, we do not need the ears to talk about frequency response of this. So starting with the bass in the Planar Red, it definitely rolls off a bit. They say that it only reaches 30 hertz. I got a little bit of something down in that like 20-25 hertz region, but it could be overtones. Who knows? But it definitely rolls off. I'd say below 50 hertz is where it primarily rolls off. There seems to be a little bit of a hump right there, right before it rolls off, around that 50 to 60 hertz region. There seems to be a slight hump there in the bass of maybe a couple dB. After that, your lower mids are a little bit weird. They're mostly flat. I think I heard a little bit of a recession around 400 or 500 hertz on sine sweep, just a slight, maybe the dB or two recession there. After that, you have a slight roll-off in like that 1.5, 2K region. There's a little bit of a roll-off there. It comes back up for a little bit of a peak at 3K, and then it's mostly flat after that. It rolls off a little bit in that 5 to 6K region. It comes back up like 6.5, and then it rolls off again around 7. It's very recessed around 7 kilohertz. And then comes back up around an 8 to 9K peak, and then rolls off again at around 10K, and then comes back up for a lot of weird air in like that 12 to 14K. 14.5K was kind of splashy on this for me. It slightly bothered me. But yeah, the frequency response on this is very weird. Like I said, a little bit of bass roll off, a weird mid tuning, and trebles kind of all over the place. So very, very weird mid-range tuning. So now as for other aspects. So I want to start with the soundstage on this one, because this was the most interesting thing about this to me. This is the narrowest soundstage of any open back headphone I've ever heard, bar none. This blew my mind how narrow this was. You know, people talk about, the HD 600 series. Oh, it's so narrow, it's so 3 blob. That doesn't hold a candle to this thing. This thing has the soundstage of like a MDR 7506 or like an M40X or something, where it's borderline mono. It is incredibly narrow, which I guess maybe is what they're going for, because Avantone is a studio brand. They're known for like microphones and stuff, and they were maybe trying to make like a studio monitor planar, which seems like what their goal was. But I have never heard an open back this narrow. It's almost mind-blowing to me how narrow this is for it being open. And that makes imaging pretty much very, very poor. It's just all kind of centered, a very centered image with not much in terms of left and right, just kind of all smushed together right in the center, which very, very weird to me. As for detail, for $400, no, I don't think it's $400 in terms of detail. This is like maybe $200 in terms of detail to me. It's not excessively grainy, but there is definitely some grain there. Now, in terms of dynamics, it has a little bit of planar compression overall. It's not like incredibly dynamic overall, but I have to say the bass region that's there does have a surprising amount of punch to it. I think a little bit of it is that bass hump there that I mentioned around like that 50 hertz mark, but it does have a surprising amount of slap. But it doesn't have tremendous macro dynamics overall, and the micro is mediocre, but it's about on par for what I would expect for a cheaper planar, so nothing weird there. timbre is on the plasticky side, as most planars are, and the tuning doesn't help. It's nothing egregious, but I'd say it is about par for the course, and I believe that is basically everything to talk about in terms of the sound on the Planar Red. Okay, so now let's talk about my final thoughts here and some comparisons. So this is a weird one. I have to admit, when I saw this, my hopes were not very high for it, to be completely honest with you. But it was a lot better than I expected it to be. It actually surprised me with being not egregiously terrible. It's not particularly amazing, but it's very, very interesting. Given its price, I think basically the question here is, why would I pick this over the Sundara? And honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure why I would take this over the Sundara. It's interesting. If you're somebody that for whatever reason wants a open back headphone with the soundstage of like a classic studio monitoring headphone, I guess this is the one for you. I'm not sure how many people there are out there that want this. And it's also a very, very weird tuning overall. I don't know. It's a very, very strange headphone, which is what I expected it to be, but not in the way that it ended up being. So the Planar Red, I really can't recommend unless you're a very, very specific person that wants to try basically the narrowest soundstage in any open back headphone ever. But not terrible, but very, very, very weird. So I guess an okay first attempt at a headphone. I've certainly heard way worse first attempts at headphones. So I guess I'll commend Avantone for making something that was at least semi-passable for their first attempt at a headphone. But yeah, basically just buy the Sundara over this. And in fact, I will absolutely link the Hyphen Sundara at Bloom Audio below. And hopefully you'll buy that from him because I don't see much reason to buy this, unfortunately. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed my review of the Avantone Planar Red. I will link this below at Bloom Audio if you want to try it for whatever reason. But again, I will also link the Sundara at his store for you to buy because that thing is very, very good, as you saw in my recent review of the 2020 revision. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Links of my Twitter and my contact email also in the description below. But I will see you all in the next one. Bye.